All right, everyone, get ready because today we're going to dig into keto cleanses. Seems like they're everywhere you look these days, right? So we're diving deep, going to see what all the fuss is about and figure out if a keto cleanse is something you might actually, want to try. We've got our hands on this brand new guide, claims to be the handbook for keto cleanses in 2024. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. What exactly is a keto cleanse? I mean, is it just a fancy way of saying you could be living on green juice for a week?
Not exactly, no. See, the guide actually makes a point of saying this isn't your typical juice cleanse. It's more about taking the principles of the ketogenic diet and, at the same time, giving your body a little extra help with its natural detox processes.
Got it. So two sides to the same coin. But for those of us who need a little refresher on Keto 101, what does that actually look like in practice? Like, what are you eating? What are you not eating? Give us the rundown.
Our guide defines the ketogenic diet as high in fat, moderate protein, and very low carb. Think 70% of your calories from healthy fats, avocados, nuts, olive oil, that kind of thing, 20% from protein, then just a tiny 5–10% from carbs. And the goal with all this is to shift your body into fat-burning mode, otherwise known as ketosis, right?
Exactly. And that's where the detox element comes in. By cutting out all the processed foods, the added sugars, the refined carbs, you're basically hitting the reset button on your system.
Out with the bad, in with the good. Exactly. The guide really emphasizes eating whole, nutrient-rich foods that nourish your body and help it get rid of toxins naturally. Things like leafy greens, colorful veggies, high-quality protein.
Okay, sounds pretty reasonable so far. But we all know how these things go. There are always promises of these incredible benefits. Weight loss, obviously. Boosted energy, of course. Sharper thinking, you bet. Does this guide make those same claims? Because I'm guessing it does. They're saying keto cleanses can melt fat, sharpen your focus, even have some pretty impressive metabolic benefits like reducing inflammation and improving digestion. But let's be real for a second. Are these claims legit? Or are we wading into, snake oil territory here?
Well, there's definitely potential there. But like with any health trend, you got to approach those claims with a little bit of caution. And remember that everyone's body is different. What works wonders for one person might not be the right fit for another. That's why it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor or a healthcare professional before making any big changes to your diet, especially if you have any underlying health conditions.
Solid advice. Easy to get caught up in the excitement and forget that personalized guidance is key. So let's say you've done your homework, talked to your doctor, and you're ready to give this keto cleanse a shot. What's next? What does this actually look like in terms of meal planning? Are we talking like celery sticks and water for a week straight? Because count me out if that's the case.
Thankfully, it's not quite that extreme. The guide actually emphasizes finding keto-friendly recipes that are delicious and satisfying, and they even include a sample meal plan to get you started.
Okay, so not total torture then.
Not at all. And that's really key, Sustainability is important. It's not about just toughing it out on a restrictive diet for a few days. It's got to be something you can actually stick with and feel good about.
Speaking of sticking with it, how long does this keto cleanse thing actually last? Is there a set amount of time? Asking for a friend.
Well, the guide offers a couple of different options. They have a 5-day cleanse, which sounds like a good starting point if you're new to this whole thing, kind of like a quick reset for your system. And then there's a 14-day option for those who are ready to go all in. That one supposedly offers, more benefits, but obviously requires a bigger commitment too. And this is important. The guide also really stresses the importance of paying attention to your body and adjusting the length of the cleanse based on what you need and what your goals are.
So no one-size-fits-all approach. I like it. But, okay, let's say you're a few days in. How do you know if it's actually working? What kind of progress tracking are we talking about here?
Well, the scale's an obvious one, but it's really important to remember that the number on the scale is just one piece of the puzzle. The guide actually makes a big deal about paying attention to how you feel, which I think is really smart.
So true. It's not just about the number on the scale. It's how your clothes fit, your energy levels, all of that. And speaking of data, the guide also mentions ketone testing. Can you explain what that is and why it matters?
Sure. Basically, ketone testing measures the level of ketones in your body. You can do it through your breath, blood, or urine. It's a way to see if you're actually in ketosis.
So it's like checking to see if your body's engine is running on fat for fuel.
Exactly. Some people find it motivating. Some people don't really need it. It depends on what works for you.
Makes sense. Now, I've got to ask about the extras, the add-ons that always seem to pop up with these kinds of things, supplements and enhancers. The guide mentions electrolytes, MCT oil, digestive enzymes. What's the deal with those? Are they essential or just a bunch of hype?
It's a little bit of both, to be honest. Some, like electrolytes, can be really helpful, especially in the beginning when you're first transitioning to a keto diet.
Okay, hold up. Electrolytes, why? What's the connection there?
So when you drastically cut carbs, your body starts losing water weight, right? And when you lose water, you also lose electrolytes like sodium, potassium, magnesium.
Ah, so it's not just about the water, it's about what's in the water.
Exactly. And those electrolytes are crucial for all kinds of things, muscle function, nerve signaling. When your electrolytes are out of balance, you can get hit with fatigue, headaches, muscle cramps, the keto flu everyone talks about.
Okay, so electrolyte supplements could help combat those nasty keto flu symptoms. What about MCT oil? That seems to be everywhere these days.
It is. MCTs, or medium chain triglycerides, are a type of fat that your body processes differently than other fats. They get turned into ketones by the liver pretty quickly, which can give you a really fast source of energy, especially when you're first adapting to ketosis.
So it's like a shortcut to that fat-burning state.
You could say that. But just a reminder, MCT oil still has calories, so it's not like you can just start adding it to everything and not expect it to impact your progress.
Got it. Moderation is key, even with the good fats. Now, what about digestive enzymes? What are those all about?
Well, remember how we talked about the keto diet being high in fat? Sometimes, especially if you're not used to eating a lot of fat, it can be kind of hard on your digestive system.
Right, makes sense.
Digestive enzymes can help your body break down those fats more efficiently, which can make digestion a lot easier.
Okay, so potentially helpful, but not necessarily a must-have for everyone. Now, for those who like to, drink their way to health, the guy also talks about this keto juice cleanse twist. They're talking green smoothies with things like spinach, avocado, coconut milk. It's not about cutting out food entirely, but adding in more liquids and nutrient-packed drinks.
Yeah, and bone broth also gets a shout out. Bone broth is packed with minerals and nutrients, so it's a super nourishing choice, especially during a cleanse when you're trying to support your body's natural detoxification process.
So it's not all deprivation and boring salads. There's room for flavor and, actually enjoying what you're eating. But let's be real for a second. No health approach is perfect, right? There are always going to be challenges. The guide does acknowledge that keto cleanses aren't always easy, doesn't it?
It does, and it actually dedicates a whole section to the potential downsides, which I think is great.
Transparency is key. So, lay it on us. What are some of the bumps in the road that people should be prepared for?
Well, we've already talked about the keto flu, right? Those are those carb withdrawal symptoms that can pop up in the first few days. But beyond that, there's also the risk of nutrient deficiencies. Even if you're doing everything right, when you restrict certain food groups, even temporarily, you might not be getting all the vitamins and minerals that your body needs.
That makes sense. So what are some of the signs that you might be missing something? What nutrients tend to get overlooked on a keto cleanse?
The guide specifically mentions B vitamins, vitamin C, and certain minerals like calcium, magnesium, and potassium as potential areas to watch out for. It's not that these are off limits on keto, but you have to be mindful about getting enough from the foods you're eating.
So that's where meal planning and variety become extra important.
Exactly. And this might be another area where those targeted supplements could be useful. But again, always best to check with your doctor to see what's right for you.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive. We talked about what keto cleanses are, how they work, the good, the bad, the tips and tricks. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your overall take on this guide.
For a guide that's focused on one specific way of eating, it's actually surprisingly well-rounded. They don't sugarcoat the challenges, they really emphasize the importance of listening to your body, and they even spend a good chunk of time talking about mindset and long-term sustainability, which I always appreciate.
Totally. It's not just about like restricting yourself for a week and then going back to your old ways.
Yeah.
Right?
And that actually brings up a really important question for your listeners.
Okay, hit me with it.
This guide does a great job of explaining how to do a keto cleanse, but it also brings up a bigger point. What are your personal health goals? What are you hoping to achieve? Because just because something works for one person doesn't mean it's the right fit for everyone.
So it's about figuring out what works for you.
Exactly. It's about tuning into your own body, listening to what it needs, and making choices that feel right for you.
Love that. Well, there you have it, everyone. We've explored the world of keto cleanses, talked about the potential benefits, the potential downsides, and everything in between. Hopefully you're feeling a little more informed and empowered to make the best choices for your health. And remember, if you're looking for more info recipes, resources, all that good stuff, head over to our website. That's all for today's deep dive. Until next time, happy and healthy eating.